It's a windy day today, but I just wanted to show you guys how I do my wood turnings. Each of these starts off with a solid block of wood, and then I add these rings that are made out of at least 12 pieces with 15-degree angle cuts on them to make a ring. So I'm not going to be able to show you the actual turning process because I don't have a tripod, but I just wanted to show what it looks like after I've glued a ring and what it'll look like after I turn one, and then hopefully I can glue some more on and show that as well. Here goes. Alright, so here's the next video, and this is after I've just got through turning. You can see there's shavings everywhere. I've turned the outside. I've got to true up this top layer right here, sand it flush, and I'm going to actually cut it off about 1/4 to 5/16 and split this ring in order to make the design that I'm going for. Alright, show some more in the next video. So here's the next part of the process. What I've done is I've split that ring using a parting tool. Then I took my saw and cut through it so that it didn't fly off the lathe. And here is the piece. You can see where the parting tool burnt and kind of messed with the finish, but I'll sand that flat and use it on another project. So now what's left is to turn the inside, and I'll leave it a little wide so that when I add my next layer and turn it down, there'll be enough to accommodate for that. So on to the next step. Okay, so again, it's a super windy day. Apologize for the noise, but here we go. We've got the layer cleaned up. It's still not sanded all the way. There's a little rim here where it's wider than the piece of Paduk underneath it, and that's so that I can sand down to it and not cause any tear out if it's going to later. But I am getting ready to work on another bowl in a similar fashion, and then I'll start cutting the next layer, and I'll try to make a video of that as well. It's still super windy, so I apologize for the noise, but I just got through cutting 12 of these pieces for the next segmented ring, and so I'm fixing to cut some more for another bowl out of maple, and then I'll go upstairs and show you guys how that I glue them up and what works for me. Okay, so we got both of these glued up. I've got them in the clamps and tightened up, and so hopefully in a few hours I will be set enough where I can take them out of the clamp. And then what I'll do is I'll sand one side flat with the 12-inch disc sander, and then I'll be able to glue it onto the next piece. So I'll check back with you when I get that next step ready. Alright, so the pieces had dried enough that I was able to take them out of the clamp and sand them. And so what I did is, you can see this side is nice and flat. The other side is still rough, and that's okay because I'll true it up on the lathe later. But next step is to glue these to these. So that's what I'm going to get working on next. Well, here's what it looks like after it's been glued up. You can still see the glue is wet around the ring where it's attached. You can also see my alignment marks that I have. And just now it's a waiting game. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this other one up and work on this other project I got going on. Well, it's been a few days since I've been able to do any wood turning. I'm back at it. This is the Paduk bowl that I was working on. My goal for tonight is to turn it down, split this ring, true that up, glue some more pieces together, and hopefully get the next layer on. I've already been working on some other things today. I had a bowl on here, but I split it off, and so I'm getting ready to add a new piece of wood to it. And I also had this piece of mesquite that I added on and turned it down today too, so this will be a nice piece when I get it going. All right, well, here goes. So here it is after I've turned that layer down. I've started to cut it with the parting tool, and now I'm starting to use my saw to finish cut it through, and you can see right there where I started it. I generally use a pull saw. Gets through there pretty good, but that's where I'm at. I'm fixing to finish that. I'll turn it down a little bit more, and then I'll go cut some pieces for the next layer. Well, that's that. I was able to part the layer off. I got a nice sanded finish on this, so it's nice and true and flat, ready to be used again on something else. And I've also turned this layer down a little bit. I still have left it a little proud. That way I can finish up sanding, but sometimes when I use some of these exotics, they tend to tear out, like Wenge can kind of chip out on me. So I've left it a little proud in order to sand and get that finished. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to cut another layer. Probably won't show you that I'm cutting it, but I'll maybe do another glue up, and we'll try to make some progress. I didn't quite get as much done as I wanted to last night. I didn't get these sanded and glued on, so that's what I'm going to do this afternoon. Is I sanded one side of these flat, and I'm going to glue them on to their prospective project that I've got going, and then hopefully a little bit later this evening I'll get to do some turning. Getting ready to turn this next layer, and again I'm going to split the ring. That's what the design is calling for. So I'm going to turn it down, and then I'll start splitting it, and I'll probably show you guys how it's split and what that looks like. Today's wet and rainy. It rained most of the day, and then yesterday we had fires not too far away, about 500 acres at least burned, so didn't get anything done yesterday, and just getting to the wood turning right now. Just got through turning it down. I've started to use the parting tool, and I'm fixing to take the saw and cut that off, and then I'll true up the rest of the inside. But that was that step, and just this one little ring, the little shavings that came off of it, made all this mess. So something I got forward to cleaning up in a minute after I get through on that one, but I'm gonna get back at it. Well, making progress. Got that ring cut off, sanded flat, so it's ready to go again on something else. Started to sand the inside of the bowl a little bit, working on refining the shape. It's looking pretty good. I'm happy with it. Still left, haven't finished sanded, because I'll do that when the bowl is almost completely glued up, but I'm trying to control how thick this bowl ends up being, and right now it's at a good thickness, so I will add some more layers to it and keep making videos. Just got through cutting all my segmented pieces, usually 12 of them in a ring. Did that for my mesquite bowl, and also did that for my Paduk bowl, and I kind of made a mistake earlier and forgot to cut some of my pieces, and I needed to cut 12 more of these, so I went ahead and did that. But I'm going to go glue these rings up. Hopefully they'll dry, and I'll be able to glue them up onto the bowls themselves in a little while, maybe after dinner. Just got through sanding these two rings. See, one side's nice and flat, The other side is not, and that's okay because I'll turn it and flatten it on the lathe. Same thing with this one. One side is not. But getting ready to mark these. I usually make some alignment marks on my bowls. In fact, you can see some of those alignment marks here that I've made previously, but I'll do the same thing as I'll make some marks so that when I glue it up, it will line up. And after I do that, I'll make another video. Got it glued up. It lines up really well. You can see my marks that I made for it. A lot of times I'll add a 25-pound weight to the top of it. That just helps close it up, put some pressure on there, and the glue will do the rest. But I'll let this dry overnight, and hopefully tomorrow I'll add a couple more layers on. Got back to the Paduk bowl today. Gonna do similar thing to what I've been doing, and that is to turn this ring till it's round, flatten the top, split it into half, and then I'll be able to start working on it. But you'll about see where the pattern is going when I add the very next layer. So I'll do that. I'll turn it and show you guys what it looks like. Just finished turning that layer and got this sanded flat, nice and true. Started to work on splitting this ring. It's looking really nice. So what I'll do next is I'll take my saw, cut this off, and then I will true up the inside and sand it flat and get ready for the next layer. This one's looking good too. I've just finished sanding some of this after I split this ring off. I just wanted to do a little bit of sanding to see where I was at, kind of control the thickness, and see if there's any little imperfections or flaws. Sometimes when you sand a real sharp corner, you get where the edge will either peel off or make a chunk, and then you can kind of see it where it's glued up to the next ring. But like right here, I've got a little spot. So by keeping the wood turning a little thicker and sanding to it, I should be able to get rid of that and still keep a nice 1/4 inch thickness or so, sometimes 5/16, but it should end up with a nice size where it doesn't feel too heavy or too chunky. And that also means I'll have less wood movement by having, obviously, a thinner vessel. But that's where I'm at. So what I'm going to do next is get ready for the next layer, cut those segments, glue them up, and hopefully get those on this evening as well. Just got through cutting all my pieces. Again, 12 pieces in a ring plus whatever the design calls for. So I'll go glue those up into rings, and hopefully I can get those sanded and glued onto these a little bit later. Just got through gluing these two up. They just need some time to dry, and then I'll be able to sand them flat and glue them onto the wood turning and make a little bit more progress. But it's looking good. Looking good. Just got these sanded. This is going to be a nice color contrast. This is some Paduk maple, and then I have some spalted oak. It's really going to make that pop once we get it finished. But I'm going to glue these up, and I'll show you what those look like. Just got it glued on. The design came out really well, nice and even. You can see my alignment marks there. So this one's going to turn out real nice. It's got 2 more layers. I'm trying to keep this bowl under 4 inches tall. So I've got another layer of oak after I split this ring, and then I'll finish it with the layer of Paduk. And so it should come out real nice. Keep you updated as I go along. I've just mounted the Paduk bowl on, and the goal is to turn this layer get it completely round and flat on the top, and then we're going to split it. And then after that, I'll cut some red oak pieces and kind of repeat this pattern here, and then one more pattern of the red. But it is looking good. So I'll show you what this looks like when it's turned down and ready to split. We just got through turning this one. I didn't even blow it out to blow some of the shavings out, but it is turned around, sanded on this side, and I started to part this, and I also started to sweep this out a little bit. I'm leaving it a little bit wider because I want this bowl to flare as it goes out and give it a nice rim detail. But I'm going to go ahead and part this off the lathe with the saw, and I will show you what that looks like and clean up the inside. Just got it parted off. Did a little bit of sanding and some cleanup work on it, but it is looking good. Get ready to glue up the next layer of oak. I got to cut those pieces. One of the things that I'll run into is that when I add my next layer, it's probably not going to be wider than what the lathe can handle as it is now. But what I'll do is I'll pivot the headstock, and I'll be able to gain some room that way and be able to safely turn it. But that's what the next few steps will be. Well, just got through cutting 12 pieces of this red oak. Got some alignment marks, and I'll go glue them up so that they can dry and we can add to this bowl. Just getting ready to glue this ring onto this bowl, so I'll show you what that looks like in a few minutes after it's glued up. Just got this red oak layer glued up on this bowl, and we'll wait for it to dry, but it's looking pretty good. Got to split this ring of oak and then add one layer of Paduk, so it's getting really close. Well, I've got the Paduk bowl mounted up with this red oak layer, but because the dimensions of this red oak ring are taller than what my bed will allow, I've had to pivot the headstock so that I can get clearance for this turning. But it's a great thing about this machine is that it'll do that. It'll pivot, so it'll allow me to turn wider than what my bed, the swing over my bed is. But I'm going to go ahead and turn that next layer. Well, I've got this one turned down. One side's flat. Started to part it, turn the inside a little bit as well. And because I turned this round, it was no longer hitting the bed, and I could move the headstock back into the 90-degree position. So that's also nice because it allows me to work the inside a little easier in this position. Well, I'll part it off and I'll show you what it looks like after I'm done. I got the layer turned. Got it. Won't you be quiet? Yeah, y'all are both making noise. Anyways, got the layer turned down, piece parted off, got it to the right width that I wanted. Still have a ways to go on sanding, but until I finish this last layer of red, it's going to stay that way and give me a little bit of extra wiggle room. So I'm going to cut some pieces and try to get that glued up tonight. Getting ready to sand my last ring on my Paduk bowl, but the Paduk ring I have is bigger than my 12-inch disc sander. So thought I'd show you what I did the other day. I took a piece of plywood and I glued it up to one of my blanks onto that piece there, and I bought a disc off of eBay, and now I can sand some really large pieces. I'd glued my own sandpaper onto this from a wide belt that I'd got used at a cabinet shop, but it didn't work out as good as just using a pre-made disc. So here's what I'm going to use, and I'll show you what that looks like when I'm done. It works really nice. You can see the difference in the sanded and the unsanded from where the wood patinas. But yeah, this gluing this on, you can control the speed with the lathe. Works really well for sanding large surfaces, especially if your headstock on your lathe will pivot. So I'll go glue this up. I'm getting ready to glue this Paduk ring onto this Paduk bowl. So it's looking pretty good. I'll show you what it looks like after it's glued up. Just finished gluing it up, and we'll let it dry. I'll add a weight to the top of that to help it bond, but it's looking really good. Should be a really nice bowl when it's done. I just got this one mounted on the lathe. It's been a couple weeks since I've done any turning on it. I've had some other projects to do, so time to get back at this one, but I had to pivot the headstock so that we would get some clearance, and I'll be able to readjust this as I turn it down. But I will start turning, and I'll show you what the shape ends up with. Just got through turning and decided this layer only needs to be so thick, so I started to part this off. I lightly sanded it, but I've still got some more to go because I can see I've got some glue lines or areas I need to clean up, but I'm working on the inside, so I'll get this parted off and I'll show you what that looks like. So just got it parted off the lathe, and now I've got some inside cleanup to do. So I'll do that cleanup and I will show you what it looks like. Look at all this beautiful red shavings. Well, I've just spent maybe a good hour working on this, sanding, getting it finished shaped, and it's looking good. So I've just blown everything off with a compressor, and I'm going to let the dust settle, and then I'm going to get back out here and put a coat of sealer on this and see what that looks like. But it's looking really nice. I just wiped on a good solid coat of this marine sealer and let it soak in, and then I wiped another one on real quick, and it's soaked into the wood, as you can tell. So I'll let this dry and maybe add another coat before I apply some finish. But looking really nice. I just added a coat of the marine UV finish that I've been using, so it's looking nice and shiny. Just gotta wait for it to dry, and we'll add another coat. But just wanted to show you guys what it looked like.